Let me be clear. I'm not jumping on Tony. I actually enjoy Tony's comments on Facebook. But let me put it this way. I did a video yesterday where I was talking about that black people should trade in Jesus for Buddha. Now, did I literally mean that we should trade in Jesus for Buddha? In a certain way, I do, because at least the Buddha philosophy is not something that hinges on some God who's going to send you to eternity of hell. But then, as many black people have done, they instead of looking at philosophies like Buddhism, philosophies like Taoism, looking at Stoic philosophies or things of that nature, what they do is transfer from one religion to another religion. And in transferring from one religion to another religion, one of the most popular things for black people to do is to go and try to reestablish their belief in their African ancestry spirituality. And on the surface, this seems like a good thing. And I know that I said in the other video that the people in 1804, the Haitians, went back to their Orishas and they were able to defeat major world powers of the day. But please do not take that as me saying that today we need to go back to some Orishas or anything of that nature, because even in 1804, their level of scientific knowledge still allowed for the belief of some type of God. The African ancestry worship or the ancestral spirituality, or it encompasses the belief of these other gods as well. Oshun, Mamawata, Eshu, all these different deities that are no better than the God of the Jewish people, the gods of the Levant. Let me clear the whole table. The gods of the Mediterranean, all of them, whether it's Greek, African, North African, whether it's the Oxium pantheon, it doesn't matter. The Kemetic pantheon, it doesn't matter. Let me show you this. I had to verify to make sure that I was right. But in the Kosa religion, right, and you have different smaller sections of people with different names who also know this story, but the overall group is the Kosa people, Kosan people. And I might be saying that wrong. And I know there's a clique that goes with that name, and I don't know how to do it. But anyway, in their spirituality, they believe that the skies were dark, and then a young girl grabbed some grabbed some embers from a fire and ashes from a wood fire and threw them up into the sky, and they stuck in the sky, and the wood embers became the stars and all the other heavenly bodies, and these stars and heavenly bodies lit up the night sky and allow people to navigate their way home in the night, in the darkness. And this created the Milky Way. Going back to African spiritualities means believing in this type of stuff. There is a Zulu story. The Zulu story says that, and this is going to sound familiar. The Zulu story says that long ago, the earth was misted all day, was a huge mist over the earth, and only the sun shone. But the sun was, during the day, bright enough to give light, but not bright enough to penetrate the mist. And the entire world was filled with a mist, a lakish, swampish lagoon of a mist that covered the entire planet. How they know it covered the entire planet is beyond my understanding. But it covered the entire planet for what they knew the world was. But this mist remained until one day another heavenly body came into Earth's orbit. The moon came into Earth's orbit. And that heavenly body changed the tides, because where there were hardly any tides, now there are tides. And these tides, and originally when it came, it flooded the world and caused earthquakes and major catastrophes. But it allowed for the cycle of the storms to appear and move and wind to blow. And the sun was able to shine through because the mist was now gone. So after this great upheaval came the beauty of the sun because of the moon, and the goddess of the moon was the wife now of the sun's cohort. Sounds a lot like your Genesis chapter 2 story when God didn't make it rain. He forgot to make it rain, and then he watered the earth with a mist. Sounds a lot like that story, part of that story, right? But this was a Zulu story. And also, this story is also, if you read Plato's writing, Plato talks about back in the day before when the moon wasn't around and the moon arrived. So if we go back to African spirituality, do we go back and believe that there was a time frame when the earth and humans were on the earth and the moon was not there? I mean, I know there are many people who think that the moon is an artificial object. There are many people who think that the moon is a Dyson sphere. Uh, I understand. I find the moon very interesting. I don't think that the moon is hollow as an artificial um, entity, but I do think the moon is hollow through natural causes. And not hollow like completely hollow. That there are tremendous large caverns within the moon, and just as we know that there are caverns within the earth, the moon just have much bigger caverns, and so that's why it rings like a bell. That's why that sort of thing happens. I don't think that some aliens drove the moon here, uh, but it's just the makeup of it and how it was created. And because it's lacking and doesn't have that, and has all those hollow aspects to it, deep caverns and things within it, and that's why it doesn't have the same type of rotation. Because it doesn't have a core to allow it to spin, and that's why we only see one side of it, and so on and so forth. Um, yeah, the moon. But the point is, got off track. If we go back to African spirituality, are you saying that we go back to those beliefs? And then which ones? Most of us who accept and know, and that we are, our generations here in America and in the Americas is West African. Which West African spirituality would you follow? Would you follow the Dahomey? Would you follow the Guyanese? Would you follow the Mali? I mean, my father has generations from Mali and generations from Senegal. Which one do I follow? Do I follow the Dogon or do I follow the Senegalese? My mother's side of the family, the overwhelming majority is Yoruba and Igbo. So should I follow theirs? You see what I'm saying? So you still will have to deliberate on to which version you're going to follow, and you're still believing in beings overseeing and interfering with things and doing things and having human-like personalities. So the best thing is to follow what we know scientifically, what we know at levels of consciousness, as far as we can look and see that there are like plants have a level of consciousness, insects have levels of consciousness, animals have levels of consciousness, humans, which is an animal, is at a higher level of consciousness than the other animals. So if there are multiple layers of consciousness on the earth, as we can see and observe and test, then theoretically there should be higher levels of consciousness. And there is no, and the thing about it, if we were to experience something that was 3 levels of consciousness higher than what we are, people may say that's a god, that's a demon, that's an ancestor, that's a spirit. It's just another being at a higher level of consciousness, because then there will be higher levels of consciousness above that being, and above that being, and above that being. This is why some Buddhist sects said that the Christ mind exists like on the eighth, no, not eighth, like the 10th, 11th chakra. And then the Buddha mind is like on the 13th, 14th chakra, higher than the Christ mind. So your New Age Buddhism is teaching things of that nature. But it is the law of correspondence in the hermetics that since there are levels in every aspect of understanding, and even in spirituality and consciousness, there, which is, to me, spirituality is just consciousness, there are different levels. And those levels, since they go down, then they go up. And since the up can affect the down and the down can affect the up, then it would be the same way in that. Now, through prayer and all that bullshit, no, I don't think we affect anything. You affect things by following the law of mentalism, and then the law of cause and effect, the law of vibration, the law of rhythm, the law of polarity, the law of gender, and that's how things are manifested in your life. So always remember, you have to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.